Good afternoon. Hey, friends, and welcome back. Let's be honest, not every time we sit down to make music do we create something amazing. Sometimes we make a keeper, and sometimes just an idea we can revisit later, and that's totally okay. It's easy to get frustrated when our taste, our good music taste, doesn't match our output yet. But here's the thing, this happens to all of us as artists. The secret is embracing the happy accidents and just doing more reps, more repetitions of making music. The more we create, the better our odds of stumbling onto something special, right? So today we're going to do exactly that. We'll start a fresh music idea here from scratch in Ableton. We'll explore some sound design along the way, and we're going to also chat a little bit about YouTube's new communities feature, and I'll answer any production questions you throw at me. Go for it. I'm here, ready. So whether you're just starting out or you've been at this for years, hopefully you'll pick up some workflow tips and leave feeling inspired to create something new. So let's dive in and see what happens in today's stream. All right, as usual, we like to do a little bit of a test or two. So let's fire up a little bit of music. Hopefully microphone is already working well and you can hear me nice and loud and clear. Anyone in the stream already, if you fancy letting me know, give me a thumbs up on the microphone, that's great. And also once we play a little music. So let's have a little music here. Hello, hello, testing, testing. All right, that all looks, as we say, hunky-dory. Everything looks like it's working absolutely fine this end. I'm sure you'll tell me if something isn't as we go. So let's boot up a brand new live set and get underway here. And don't be shy, feel free to drop any questions in the chat as we go. Say hello, all those good things. I'll leave the chat about YouTube communities into, let's say, the midpoint of the stream so we can get some music going and have a bit of a rolling beat and an idea going, and then we can have a little chat as we go. So I'm thinking today a little bit of tech house. Let's maybe get our tempo up to 126 or even 128. We might go start up around there somewhere. Now let's begin with a little bit of drums and then we can kind of add to that as we go. I'm also going to throw a little track in here, which is just literally a MIDI track with a bunch of pointers on it for me, just to think about some things. I like to have something like that over there. It's a blank MIDI track. It's just got a few clips in it that I've named with things just that maybe I'd like to show you when I'm doing my sound design and all those kind of good things. So let's maybe start with a kick that I might have, a nice punchy kick in audio that I might use. Something like this one's a good one. So let's maybe just drop that into a simpler and have a nice 4 on the floor pattern. Nice and easy there. Let's knock that out to, say, 4 bars long so we can kind of consider any kind of little groove notes or anything there that we might add in a moment. But for now, we've just got a simple pulse. Great. And then what we might do from there is grab another drum rack. And by the way, sort of a lot of what I spoke about at the beginning of today's stream, sort of, you know, sometimes you make music and it comes out a great idea, and sometimes it's not an idea. It's, you know, sometimes we stumble across something that's amazing. Sometimes it's a keeper. Sometimes we're not sure what it is. And it was really refreshing the other day. I just jumped on YouTube and I watched a bit of Chris Lake doing a stream, and what a legend he is, you know, responsible for many amazing hits in the electronic world of music. And he was struggling. And when you see things like that, it's just, you know, very obvious that, as I said, it happens to all of us, you know, and half of the time we're sort of trying things out, refreshing stuff, doing different things to try and come across that magical thing that's going to make your track the special thing that it might be today, whether it's chords or a melody. And today I'm thinking with this tech house idea, it's going to be a little bit about maybe the sound design that's going to make us kind of come up with, oh, we like that, rather than it being a chord progression or a fancy melody or something like that. So a little bit of a different direction today. If we were writing melodic house or something like that, we'd be leaning more heavily on trying to get that emotional. So today we might be looking more at sort of something that's kind of cool and quirky sounding, a bit like minimal house or something. We might be doing the same, or house music. So let's get and grab ourselves a drum rack, something that we can use here. Let's use Ableton stuff so far. I mean, yes, I used a kick drum that I like, a sample, but let's have, say, an Ableton kit in here. Just looking for a name or two I might recognize. This one could be one that we could use. I think, yeah, this one's kind of cool. It's got some interesting sounds in it. So we might use one for conventional stuff and one for a little bit of some percussion or something. So let's jump across into this one. Let's have a look at what we've got in terms of sort of snares. Let's turn on the preview, that helps. We've got a clap in here. Decent hi-hat. And an open sort of hi-hat, but not really hearing a sort of snare or something that I'm really that into there. So that's what I'm thinking to get in here. So let's do a snare or clap, and we could just use, again, something that I've bookmarked, and then we'll go from there. Maybe just this one here. Drop that in there. Get something rolling kind of fast. Maybe a little skip here. Just watch out the length of your notes as well for groove. If you want them really tight, or if you want them sort of a little bit longer. Let's also get a swing going as well. Let's use a bit of swing today. So let's get over into our groove templates we get with Ableton Live, and let's get some of the Logic swings. So we'll have something that's just gently swung. And if you've got any questions about swing, fire them away. Let's just see what else we had already in here. So we had MPC 3016 64. So we might actually keep that in there as well. And let's have a Logic swing a little bit around the 59. Oh, I just realized I'm dropping in eighths there, not paying attention. So I do want 16th swings for what I'm doing. So I think you would generally find the same for you guys. So let's have 55, 59. So that's not too heavily swung. Those are not straight, but they've got a little bit of groove to them. So we can hear 59 versus 55. And if you do this long enough, you'll end up with some favorite numbers, I'm sure. So the higher the number, the more swing, the more percentage the even notes are going to be off the grid, later in time swung away from the grid. And the smaller, the lower number, so 51 being the lowest Logic swing here, that's the closest we get to straight, 50 being straight, virtually on the grid, 51 being a bit later. So let's get those claps. Let's try out a little bit of the swing on them. It's the MPC, tighter, a bit looser with the Logic. I like the 63. And if we look up here, what's the 63 doing? It's got a little bit of velocity variation, which is quite nice. So that's part of the swing. So just to point out as well, like in Ableton Live, when you see grooves, so it's a groove pull, right? Swing itself, it doesn't involve velocity, it's timing. But when you talk about grooves, look for ones where you see that the velocity is also being applied, because that means that it's not only changing the timing, we see timing 100%, 16th, but we see velocity. And you'll look down here, if you look at the velocity lane, of course, nothing's changed except for that ghost note I put in earlier. But if we were to apply this swing, which we do with this little arrow over here, so if we select our notes, and let's maybe actually, well, yeah, I'll leave that ghost note anyway. I can fix that in a moment, but that's already obviously got velocity applied. But just paying attention to the ones that don't, which are the ones on the 2 and 4, if we apply this, you'll see that we saw the velocity move, right? So if we hover over, we're now at 112, which is 20% less velocity than we had a moment ago. So if I undo that and we go back, you can see they're at 120, right? And they're longer notes. So you could also see that when we apply that swing, what it's doing, it's moving the 16th over the line here. So it'd be pushing, if there was another 16th here, it would be swinging that one later. So in this case, it's just lengthened those notes a little bit, but it's changed the velocity. If we had a full 16th hi-hat pattern here, so maybe we'll do that so you can see what I'm talking about, just to give you a bit of a swing lesson here, what's actually going on. So let's, in this clip, let me just get my mouse working a bit better there. There we go. So now we would have all the 16ths with 16th notes on them, and if we were applying the swings over here, we'll start to see what that note length that we just saw, what it just did, right? So if we apply it now in here, you will see what it's done, right? And that's the swing, this part here. So this note is now the value of that swing, 59, 55, 63% away from that line, even only, as you can see. So all those even 16ths have now been swung. So if we do a little comparison, actually, let's just undo that, put this 16th back. I've diverted a little bit here, but I just think this might be interesting for you guys and girls to learn. So if you're finding this interesting, do let me know in the chat, but it's just a little bit so you understand what's going on with swing. So let's have 2 16th hi-hats here, or claps in this case. And let's say with one of them, we leave it alone. Okay, so it's all like that. Let's actually change it to a hi-hat. And let's grab a quick hi-hats here. Okay, hi-hat, just a one shot. Quite like closed actually, something like. Let's put it around the other way. Battling with the typing today, that if that's the only issue, we'll be all good, eh? All right. Let's try. Okay, now we got plenty. I think I probably just should jump where I know there's a good sample or two. Would also be really easy. Good morning from Brooklyn, NYC. Capers, very good morning to you. Okay, this is good. That's a nice little tight one. Let's use that. Let's just drop that down here. So we're just unpacking swing for a second. I didn't want to do it on my claps in the end because I will apply swing there in a second. But because I opened up the can of worms, which is swing, we're just taking a quick look here to remind ourselves what actually goes on, and the fact that a lot of the stuff over in Ableton's groove pool, they're actually grooves. So as I was pointing out, they don't only swing the notes, they also, in a lot of cases, like you'll see this top one up here, this MPC one, does nothing to the velocity, but the other ones are changing the velocity. All those logic ones, they not only move the timing of the even beats, but they also change the velocity a little bit. They don't randomize it, they just lower it a little bit. So now over here, let's leave one of our 16th hi-hats straight like that. Let's make sure there's no swing in here. Okay. So not very interesting at all. And then we're going to go down to the second one, and then we're going to go through the previews of the swings. Okay, we can kind of hear that's pretty heavily swung. This one's a lot closer to straight. So 55 means it's very close. It's just a little bit later, those even notes. Getting more later. And again, really quite obvious. So 55, let's say we just want a gentle bit of swing, and we're going to move the velocity. If we now apply that, you will see what happens. So you can see there's the swing happening, right? It's that little change there. So Ableton lengthens the odd beats and shortens the even beats and gives us that velocity difference across the board of that 20%. So this now sounds like this. Versus what we began with, right? Hang on. Just hit a pause for a second, make sure we've got our examples set up properly. Okay, so this one applied. This one we want none in here. Okay. No swing, no velocity. 55 logic plus velocity. Okay, so just wanted to point that out a little bit, just so you get a feel for what's going on when you're choosing swings and grooves, what's going on with all of that. So back to our claps. We're going to choose another hi-hat in a little bit. That's not the sound I think I'm going to use, but we'll come back to that in a moment. So we've got a kick drum, we've got a clap. My ear was sort of saying I quite liked the 55. It's just a little bit different, it's a little bit tighter. And if you leave it like this, by the way, this catches out a few people. But if it's there, selected, you know, there's writing there telling us one of those is chosen. It is swinging every time we open up our project and save it. That's going on like a preview. It's not committed until you click this arrow, and then it's committed, that swing. Okay, otherwise it's happening, but it's still only a preview. And also Ableton's got this kind of cool new feature, because let's say we're going to choose 55 logic swing. If we click this little box up here in the groove pool, what's great, I love that they did this, that now means that every time I open up a brand new clip, the Logic 55 swing is going to be showing like this. It's going to be previewed. It's going to be happening right across every new clip, whether it's the bass line, whether it's pianos, chords, vocals, right? So this is a nice feature. If that is on, it means automatically it's thinking that swing every other clip, audio, MIDI that I keep dragging in the project now. That's a nice touch. You also want to make sure the global amount is 100% down here. If for some reason you have 0, happened to me earlier, I think when Ableton were doing their beta versions, and I was testing it, it was 0, and so nothing was happening, and I was kind of wondering why I didn't have any swing. All right, so back to our claps. We've got a little bit of Logic 55. We could, let's just have on these stronger beats, just have a little bit of randomization on the velocity of those, and let's bring it right, dial it right back, just so that it's very subtle, almost like there's nothing. So I'm going to do that manually, and I'm going to take out the velocity there to 0 on the swing. So I've just manually said that's how I want my velocity to be, because I tend to do that by myself. Okay, cool. All right, so let's get our volumes here. Let's also maybe just pop a limiter on the master track, so we've got a little bit of juice there. Feel free, ladies and gents, to ask any production or sound design questions as we go. Yes, I'm only just working on a drum at the moment, but we'll step it up as we go. Sometimes I take tours like I just did to explain swing and groove, so hopefully find that useful and helpful. It's always good to remind ourselves and reinforce ourselves. So I would quite like a hi-hat to go with this. So let's have another track over here, and let's just do a bit of naming here. Kick, clap. Doing a little bit of tech house here, I think, today, and we're going to get some sound design happening once we get into more kind of like the music-ish type parts, what's going to be the musical elements. So let's get into my bookmarked kind of drums. And in here, I'm pretty sure I've got some racks with lots of hats and things in them. So We're looking for drums, hi-hats. That's actually patterns. We want racks. Let's go closed hi-hats, nothing about open at the moment. Capers, what happens when you apply less than 100% swing? Are we talking about the timing here? Let me know. Perhaps you're talking about the timing. I mean, you can kind of get stuck into here, playing with the randomization, the timing, quantization. So am I sort of thinking that you're talking about this? Perhaps. Let me know in a sec there. All right. So back over to hi-hats. Let's get a traditional bit of an offbeat pattern rolling. Let's move this. The global amounts. Yeah, simply in the end, I'm just going to open the info tab, which I guess we always can do, but that scales like the overall intensity of everything really. So you do want 100% really if you want it to be active, but if you play around with that percentage, effectively you're scaling all of these different elements of a groove, right? So basically Ableton says itself scales the overall intensity of timing, random, and velocity for all grooves in the pool. So it not only affects just whichever one, by the way, it affects everything that's in there. So if you're moving between them, the parameters in each groove will be applied at their assigned values. When the global groove amount is higher than 100%, the parameters will be applied beyond their values. So yeah, I don't tend to mess around with that too much myself, but I did get caught out with it, as I said, at 0%, which means there's nothing going on. So perhaps give it a try at some point and see what it offers you yourself. But in a sense, as I said, it's a scaling of everything that we've got set here. When we say everything, we currently don't have a lot. I've actually zeroed out velocity, so we're just keeping the timing of the swing at 100%. But you can, as I said, mess around with a little bit of randomization of all those things. So yeah, makes sense. It's kind of a scaling feature where we can emphasize or de-emphasize all of those across. Okay, hope that helps. Okay, I was searching out a decent hi-hat. Quite like the, might as well go with that, I think. Kind of grooves nicely. And let's see if we can kind of get a nice little skip in here. But let's move it to another sample. It's a nice thing to build up a rack like this with some of your favorite hats, so you can kind of layer them like this and you can get a nice conversation going between different hats. So you could layer the samples on top of each other, but it's kind of more interesting like this. Straight away we've got something a lot more interesting in terms of our hi-hat pattern. Quite simple. Right, we just get this nice kind of rolling groove. So again, we're swinging these, right? They're swinging with the clap, they're swinging with the kick. Let's say we're gonna get rid of these guys over here because we're going to duplicate this in a moment. But now let's select all of these and let's randomize them. Bring these ones down a little bit. Nice. And I can feel that swing. It's moving my shoulders a bit, just even with all that we have, right? So it's really critical here, because if it's all straight, we wouldn't really have just maybe have a little bit of a kick feel. I'll just leave my creative ideas go here. Pitching that kick up for something a little bit different, right? Maybe that's high as an octave. Maybe. Let's see if that stays, but this kind of was just a bit of a creative idea here, just to pitch up that kick. This one's a bit loud. Let's bring it down, make it a bit more ghosty. Nice. So just changing the pitch around a little bit of the kick for a bit of an interesting feel. Claps are grooving away nicely there. They've got swing and velocity, and our hi-hats. Now we do have the swing on the kick as well, which we could take off if we want. Can hear the difference. Change the whole track. And it was the MPC one actually, which is really interesting because it was a different swing here. And I like it. So what we've actually got going on here, which is kind of interesting, is we've got on the clap over here, the Logic 55, which is not very farly swung. And this is something you do here as well, is you can mix and match swings. So the hi-hats and the claps are on 55, but the kick was a happy accident. So that's just a happy accident there. It was on the MPC, and I just changed it to none, and it's kind of night and day for my ears. Hopefully you can hear what I hear. So let's take it off. And that's a bit because I think if we look into here as well, no, it's just purely the timing. I was just thinking there was velocity on that groove as well, but there isn't. Nice. That was a happy accident there. We like those. Can you mix and match grooves within the same MIDI clip? Not in the same clip. So in the same track you can. So you could copy the clip down and change the swing in that one to the other clip. So you could have kick clip 1. It's a good question you've asked there, Capers. And then you could have 2, and of course one of these could be swung differently, right? If you wish to be creative, this one could be with none, and one could be containing the MPC, right? I think just be careful you don't confuse yourself as to what you've got going on and where you've got it going on. That's the little trick with these previews, that it's just really a preview, even though it's happening. it is a good idea once you sort of get going with all this to sort of start committing them, if you've picked favorites, right? So I think that was the question you asked. Really quite creative thinking there, which is good. Still not sold on this, just going to try a sample. Quite a good candidate there as well. All right, cool. So let's now have a loop to go with this. So closed hi-hats in. No worries, Capers, you're very welcome. Good question. In the same clip we can't, but we can have different clips that have different swings in them as different tracks, different instruments. Sometimes just keep an eye, as I said, use that for creativity, but sometimes keep an eye, like if you've got all these different swings across your whole project, it could end up being a bit confusing and a bit of a mess. But I'm sort of like, I've got something here that's using different swings, right? And at the moment I think it sounds good. It was a happy accident, wasn't planned one. So you can do that, which I think is cool, right? So what was I thinking about over here? Well, let's say the percussion in a moment, but let's maybe see about a loop to go with it. So we might bring in a bit of a top loop or something. Maybe a bit of disco could be kind of good with this idea, a little bit of sort of disco of some kind. So let's see if we've got a disco top loop somewhere around. We don't want one shot. Let's say loop. We could even go a bit more specific. Let's say we go drum loop. Okay, let's play our loop. That could work. Okay, let's move a shootout. This one's out, too much low end, but we're going to cut that in a moment. Yeah, I think this one's the most usable one. So let's get in here and shape it a little bit. So also give it the swing that we're working with. Kick drum swing would be this one. Yeah, I quite like it again. Now it's matching the kick with that one. Okay, just having a look in here. For drums, Capers is on fire. For drums, if you want to mix and match groove, you need to separate them from the drum. For drums, if you want to mix and match groove, you need to separate them from the drum rack. Not necessarily, actually, no. I get what you're saying, sort of, obviously the MIDI clip in the drum rack, the groove is living over that, but there are workarounds for that. one of the ways to do that, so let's say we are working with a drum rack like here, would be to potentially do some sort of routing changes where you come over to another MIDI track and you'd be looking to bring the drum rack into here and then picking that particular sound, okay, from within that drum rack, whatever it might be. Let's just take a hypothetical one, and that comes into this clip over here. So we're routing a clip, a sound from in this drum rack over to this other MIDI track, and then we can essentially write a pattern for that and give that a different groove. So it's still the same drum rack, but it would have its own different pattern, right? I hope that kind of makes sense. We need to set this up a little bit. Just give a few more of these and I'll make sure that I've got the sound on the right place, right? So I need to pick a better rack and set this example up, but it can be definitely possible to route it like this. Give me a second, like I just want to sort of get a good example that could show you that. Just trying to think where I can get that from. Probably easier in a project or a recent live stream. Let's just have a think about this quickly. Okay. Yeah, wasn't sort of prepared for that one, but I know that yes, we can do that, but we need to do a little bit of clever kind of routing. Okay, maybe in here I can find an example. Let's see. So let's just collapse that. Okay, what do we not need of this? Lots of stuff. Okay. So over here, one of these racks, maybe this one's good enough. So what have we got? Let's solo this rack here. So what we've got, okay, just to walk you through this, as I said, it's a little bit of a complex kind of system, but it's possible because you are asking, can you mix and match the groove? Because I understand when you think about a drum rack, you're thinking about the groove being applied over the whole drum rack, which it would be, but there's a caveat. So in this particular group here, on this track, on one track, MIDI track, we've got this group called Hand Drums Kit, okay? And on that drum rack, on this track, we are playing from it this shaker, okay? So this shaker could have a groove from over here, right? And then from the very same drum rack right next door, we've got another MIDI track that I've set up. And on that MIDI track, it's all about the routing, right? So it's a MIDI track, but it's being routed. So the MIDI 2 is going to this kit here, right? So you have to really pay attention to the routing here. But the MIDI is going to the drum rack over there, and the sound has been chosen from within that drum rack. And then I've got its own MIDI pattern here, and that can have its own groove. So it's possible, quite a lot of, special workflow there in setting this up, but it absolutely is possible. Okay, so I hope that kind of helps. Let's get back on track a little bit here. I mean, as I said, that yes, Ableton's an incredible bit of software, and it can allow us to do some pretty cool stuff just like that. So rather than me trying to mess up, I guess, what we've got here, that sort of shows you, yes, it is possible, and that's the way you would do that. Looking at So hopefully that helped, Capers. I think that applies to what you wrote below into individual tracks. Can you work in a cowbell? I know they're unpopular now, but I was wondering how to do it. MIDI track routing, thank you. Yeah, but a special routing, as I said, it's a little bit of a very cool workflow that allows you to play sounds from a drum rack, but treat them separately over to the sides. Therefore, you could add your own grooves. Yeah, we could maybe have a cowbell. Let's just see if we can get this loop to make sense. Let's try a bit of pitch up on this. Okay. Just don't want it to dominate. Okay, so we can incorporate this disco loop here for a bit more kind of clap vibe. So what I was doing there was just bedding it in a little bit, just using the beat preserve here just to thin it out a little bit. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. All right, so I'm just thinning it out a little bit. I played around with repitching it as well, just to hear what that sounds like. What we could maybe do here is try a little bit of a beat repeat on here, just for generating maybe a fill that isn't already existing in this clap or this disco loop. Try and find the sweet spot on this as well. Oh. So what we're doing is we're taking audio loop here this disco loop. We're adding the beat repeat to it, and we're trying to get that to kind of throw in some interesting fills, right? Little variations of it. So I'm kind of messing around with that. Samuel, very nice to see you here in the chat and meet you here. Yo, always love to see someone craft some music live. Thanks. I enjoy making music live, and I hope you're learning some things along the way here. We're trying to sort of make a bit of a tech house kind of groove here, and we've just been sort of obsessing a little bit on the drums, but we're trying out some little sound designy bits here as we go along. So we've unpacked swings, used some samples, and Capers has been asking some awesome questions along the way. So this is what we have so far. But I just was going to show you here. So this is what the beat repeat is doing, right? We turn it off. Just got that straight loop just rolling on. And what you can actually do if you're making your track, we could automate this, right? So what you might do is have this, and this is a 4-bar loop, this audio disco loop that I grabbed from my sample folder. And so what we could do is come into the envelopes over here, and we could go in, say show all envelopes. We can find the beat repeat here, and we could say device on, right? And you could make like it just switch on a certain amount of time, right? Maybe just 1 bar, it does its thing. But then I need to go back, and I need to change the probability of things to happen here, where because I'd already been setting it up a little bit so that it wasn't too repetitive. It was already a little bit random, right? So I just wanted to show you there. Could be a nice little touch that you can do here as well. So we could go back to having it kind of more consistent, but just switch it on and off. But I've already kind of set it up a little bit here, so it's not. Just gonna try this other loop here. So maybe we set it really late here, just to happen every 4 bars. So it's not happening all the time. It's just coming in every now and then. And we're getting this little kind of cool beat repeat, and it works on both loops. So the beat repeat, I love that effect. It's a bit of a sleeper. Doesn't look like it does much, but it does quite a lot. And it's great for adding not just fills and interesting little variations. We're just putting it over an audio loop, which most people will just leave as it is. But now we're making our audio loop a little bit different, right? And as I said, you can turn it on and off, and you could use it, and we could record this. My mind starts going a bit nuts here, because we could open up an audio track next door, and we could get it to listen to that disco loop, and we could set it to be recording, and then we could kind of, you know, record a whole new top loop here, or with new fills in it, right? So we could go onto the track and mess around with this. Yeah, and then essentially you can, we'll get that to stop. That's hard to stop it over here. turn that back to a regular audio track, and there's what I was just doing, right? And then we can go in here, we can find our favorite take of that, and that might become the brand new audio loop or a variation of that top loop. So it's pretty cool, like beat repeat. That's a bit of sound design for you there. You know, we're putting beat repeat over this disco top loop. I'm just messing around with the mouse. You can even map that nicely to macros and to your MIDI controller, play around with all these dials, record it over, and then you've got your whole own brand new section here, which we could loop up like this, and it's a brand new top disco top loop. But now we need to turn off this. And let's jump this around, see if we've got a favorite. I like that one. It's a bit of a keeper. There's a little pop or a click in there I might need to fix, but that's a shame because I like that section. Yeah, it's just on that little hit there. It just turns out it's my favorite section, would have to be. But you get the idea, right? Pretty damn cool. A whole new loop out of it, which we could print, or we could go back to how we were. And then this will just happen every now and then. I think I had 4 bars. We're going to get a variation out of the loop. So well worth doing, ladies and gents, on that one. Just bring a limiter down a bit now. Which one are we going to use? This one I like because it's very subtle, the little fills. Okay, let's get this other loop over here. So we're going to go with that for now. And we've got another loop, another drum rack, should we say. And this one's got some interesting sounds in it. Should we beat repeat it? Let's do something else because we've already used that. So let's try another little weapon. And these are sort of Ableton Live FX and built-in things we can try. So beat repeat, great device, great for random or controlled fills, variations. As I said, use it, basses, melodies, audio, MIDI. We've just taken a disco loop and made it have a feel that we don't see here. And as I said, you can have a lot of fun and record the results out and then go back and make your own loops. Lots and lots of good stuff there. So let's maybe have a gated delay on this percussion drum rack. Not grain delay, sorry, the gated one's the one I want. Another little sleeper device, right? So the blue squares down the bottom here, they do reverse delays. So at the top you've got like a step sequencer showing you all those steps of the delay are happening, and you can kind of see down the bottom here, so you can make polyrhythmic kind of steps in the delay. 16 steps means we're playing all through like a bar of music, all 16 steps. What are the rate of the steps? We've got eighth notes, which is the delay. This is kind of like a multiplier of the delay, so you can multiply the effects of what's going on here. Then you can randomize the variation of the delay time, add some feedback, set the gain of the delay time over here is delay to velocity, and then we've got how much between the wet and dry. And then over here you've got a dice, always good fun, so you can randomize the steps, right? Or you can, exit out to 0 or go back with your Command Z or Control Z, and the same with the gated steps. And then finally down here you can, like a lot of the devices, beat repeat allows us to do this as well. You can kind of decide, do you just want the beat repeat signal to happen only, or do you want the dry signal plus whatever the beat repeat does? So we've got a little bit of that down here in the gated delay. We can, in insert mode, the dry output is active, but if we put the gate on, then there's no dry output, right? It's just the gate mode is the dry output is silenced when the gate is off. Okay, so you're getting these kind of weird little reversey repeats. It's another one that can make for some really interesting kind of patterns, and you can also mess around with, it comes with some pretty cool presets as well inside the gated delay. I quite like the Euclidean reverse. This one over here could be a lot of fun. Let's go through a few of them. Let's actually just hot swap it again. So we've got the Euclidean reverse. Let's try the cut it. Well, it's just got not a lot. Let's go for the ones that have a little bit more. Yeah, that one's interesting. There you go. So we might need to record that, because what it was doing a moment ago was very cool. It's gone a little bit there was a happy accident in there. If we were recording, we would have captured a pretty cool here, maybe. Yeah, that. So every now and then this gated delay is coming up with really nice, interesting little kind of variations and feels that I like. There's this real kind of little stuttery, glitchy. So I think what I might be doing is printing that, like again, like I did a moment ago with the disco loop, kind of run that over the top of this percussion loop for a while, let it record, find my favorite takes, because there's random and feedback and lots of good stuff going on here. It's not happening all the time. But I really like something that's going on in there. Let's try the other presets as well, just so yeah, every now and then it spits out something really cool on that setting. Let's try the repeat, because I really like these glitchy kind of sounds. That's a good question, Capers, for everybody there. Which version of Live is gated delay in? I think it's really coming since about 11. It feels like to me it's been there for quite some time. It's just a sleeper device that people just kind of overlook because they're not sure what it's doing, right? But it's reversing delays within it. As I said, you can randomize it. The presets are cool. It's another really, looking at what Ableton has under the lid, right? There's a lot of good stuff in here that people overlook for sound design. And again, we don't just have to put this on drums, right? I'm just going through the presets. We can make our own, as I said, but... So I'm going to go back to the remix. And what I'm also going to do, because I like that glitchy kind of thing that this gated delay was doing, we will go back and revisit beat repeat for a second, because also under the hood in the beat repeat are some really cool little presets. And one of them, the chopping block, is interesting. So let's turn off the gated delay, but also these micro fills. Let's surf through these as well with insect. A couple of these get right down to like 30-second notes and 60, I think it goes as small as 30 seconds. Really small changes, and you will get little glitchy beat repeats as well. So let's just try these. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, so glitch. And I think it's the insect of the microfills. Yeah, this one's cool. Could even have them together. There we go. Let's use a bit of both as the sound design on this percussion layer. And turn off that. So now we're going to use our gated delay with the beat repeat preset in front. See what we can come up with. There we go. So we're turning this percussion layer into something quite musical. So let's carry on with the sound design on this, starting to enjoy what's going on here. So just to run you through there, I'm using the insect beat delay, beat repeat preset with the gated delay remix D afterwards. We've got some interesting delays kind of going on, reversing, and short little glitchy repeats from this guy. Now if we put a resonator behind this, it's going to get really musical. move positions around. So do we want the resonator before? Do we want it afterwards? In between? Let's play around with the drum rack itself a bit. Nice. I like it in between. There. All right, we've got something grooving along here, so why not? As I said, I did promise a bit of sound design here today, and we're sound designing out an idea here. And as I said, I think when it comes to sort of minimal house, micro house, tech house, a lot of those genres today, we're not focusing on, you know, picking a key and a scale and worrying too much about emotion. We're trying to find something kind of cool, a sound that's vibey and kind of interesting, and that can kickstart the whole kind of where do we go next and what's going on next. And we're using Ableton stuff here, which is great. So Ableton drum racks, Ableton effects, and probably pulling out some that, looking at the questions in the chat, that maybe people are not sort of using all the time. They're not so familiar. So what was I thinking of doing? LFO came back to me. I lost my way there a little bit. So what we're going to do is try out an LFO here and map that to the shift of the pitch down here in the spectral analyzer, resonator. I always say analyzer. So you can see try out. It's going to get a lot of movement with that waveform. Let's also map it to the decay. Yeah, I think that might be for a separate LFO if we want to do that. That could be a cool idea as well. What do we think, folks? Do we like this sound that's come out of the resonator with the percussion and all those good things? I'm going to settle on it like that for now, on that sound. I like it with the resonators, says Capers. Yeah, I think it really works with the resonators. So let's have a quick chat, quick pause for a second, have a sip of water. It's roasting hot here in Ibiza today, so I don't know where you folks are tuned in and listening from, but and watching, should I say. But it's boiling hot here, so hopefully if it's hot where you are, you're staying cool. Keep those questions coming. And let's have a quick pop over to a different screen for a second here. And I just want to share with you an image. So let's see, hopefully this should pop up on the screen. It is on my end. I'm guessing that's going to take a second to show up on YouTube. There we go, over there. All right, so very recently, just at the start of this week, YouTube invited me to their communities program, let's say. And as soon as I saw that pop up, I absolutely switched on yes. Because for a little while we've been doing this live stream for over a year and a bit. I actually just noticed my microphone might be clipping. I'm not sure if anyone noticed that, but I'm just going to turn it down a little bit. It seems it was a bit loud actually. So sorry about that if the quality's been a bit rugged. Hopefully not. So yeah, essentially I'd been looking for a little while for a space where we can all get together and communicate with each other and grow and learn together and share things, and I can share some challenges and thoughts and ideas, and you guys can communicate with each other. So cut a long story short, I wasn't really a Discord guy. I'm aware that exists and I did dabble with it for a little while, but it wasn't really the platform for me. So it seems now YouTube are giving us the tools to start that happening. And so I made this post here about the same wavelength. That's what I've called my community space. And, you know, some similar to Discord, what you'd find on a Discord, do's and don'ts, help each other out, keep it nice and respectful, all those good things. But I've also outlined what I'd like to see and have happen in there. So one caveat is it seems to be mobile only at this point in time. It's not a desktop version, but I'm sure that will roll out eventually in the future. So essentially, I'm quite excited about it. As I said, I've been looking for a while since we started live streaming a year and a half or so ago. I chat with you guys in the chat box here, and I've met a lot of you, and a lot of you are returning regularly, and you ask questions and I answer them, but we've now got our own dedicated space to, like as I said, you can talk amongst yourselves, you can share pictures of your studio, you can introduce yourself on there. And as I said, in the future, when I get a little bit of time to work on it, I'm going to set some song challenges in there, and we're going to make it a super fun, interactive space where, as I said, we can grow and learn together, hang out, have fun. So feel free to introduce yourself in there. Let us know where you're coming from, who you are, what music you like to write. Check out that list there. It's on the YouTube post community post section. So when I post something in there, it does get shared to my community post area as well. But literally, you just go on your mobile, jump on my channel, visit communities, and like I said, in there you can introduce yourself, as Alex Moreno has already done from Mexico, who is a regular visitor here to these live streams. I love to see that. He's let us know, where he's coming from and what he's doing and how long he's been doing it, and introduced himself to everybody. And so let's do that, guys. Let's keep it nice and fun. And as I said, let's grow and learn together. So that's going to be enough from me. But just in case it escaped about that, just in case it escaped you, like I said, mobile only, YouTube community page where you now can post, speak, share. And as I said, talk amongst yourself, talk with me, share your work in progress, tips. Let's add value, guys. I'm trying to bring value here and help as many of you guys as I can, help each other out, and share tips in there. Share something. Oh, I made the discovery this week, found this plugin, found this thing about Ableton, it does this. Let's keep it like that and make it a great space. All right, so let's get back over to the music, but pretty excited about that. As I said, we're not going down the Discord road for me personally. If I can have this all working in YouTube and it eventually comes into a desktop version, then great. We will have everything that you have in a Discord, but we have it built in to YouTube where we are now. Great. All right, let's get back to the music and get a bass line, I think, next, and work a little bit further on this idea. All right, let's make sure we've got everything functioning. All looks good this end. As I said, sorry if my mic was clipping earlier, but I think we fixed that. So, all right. Let's get another MIDI track up, and let's get something that we can play a bit of bass to. Right, let's just drop that one in for now so we can get some sort of vibe happening, and then we'll... All right, let's see what's going on there. Playing around here with a little bit of pitch bend on the bass. Maybe just to give something a little bit of movement there. Okay, so explaining what I'm doing here, I realize I haven't been chatting so much as I'm going along here. Just added a little bit of raw behind this tubular bass preset, and there's this lovely new since 12.2 filter type in the filter section of raw called dispersion, and I've just been now playing around with modulating the cutoff of that filter a little bit with an LFO or one of the modulation sources built into raw, and it's just adding a little bit more character to, again, this bass sound, right? So we're sort of working a little bit in just getting some ideas out here, a simple bass pattern, simple preset, but we're sort of like putting a twist on it, giving it its own. Okay, so I just noticed I hadn't answered something from Capers. Are you planning to sidechain the bass line? I would sidechain it if I felt that it kind of needed it, but looking at our pattern a little bit and thinking about where we currently have kick drums. So we currently have kick drums kind of here. So would I be sidechaining it to duck it out the way of the kicks? Not really at this point in time, because there's very little overlap. There would be a bit of overlap on this note, but the rest of the notes are what we call syncopated at the moment. So if we have our bass like that, then the kick and the bass are happening at the same time, and we might need a little bit of sidechain to get them to fit. But pretty much most of this current bass pattern isn't really clashing with the kicks, but we might put a bit of kickstart, if you're familiar with that device, on there just to carve it and shape it around the kicks. But yeah, no real need for side chaining the bass at this point. If you're talking about capers in terms of getting it out the way, ducking it out the way of the bass line, they're working together already. So if we listen, so if you were to add something like a bit of Nicky Romero here, which is a nice kind of tool that you can, I am using something outside of Ableton here, but if we were to add this and we put it in audio, and down here we say listen to the kick, there's our kick drum, right? And over here is our bass. So if we pull this all the way over, you can see there's a bit of overlap on that very first note. So if we want to shave that a little bit, we could do that nice and easy just like that without really having to go crazy with sidechain compressors, let's say. But they fit reasonably good without the need for that, because it's a fairly short kick as well. So that's a lot about the choice that you make between your kick and how you play the bass pattern. And I played the bass pattern syncopated, so it's kind of not really on beat on the same beats with the kick. So I hope that makes sense. But you know, you could apply something like this a little bit if you want to shape those envelopes. So that's with no kickstart effectively, right? What you're listening out for is if you use the kickstart, you're not actually changing the bass, you're trying to improve its relationship with the kick. So you're actually trying to help the kick. So if it's living here, it's trying to give the kick all of its own space, right? So we're not going to do that because that kills the bass. But as we bring it over, we want them to hug each other. You can hear here the kick's still pretty solid with effectively, again, no kickstart. It's just sort of somewhere in here if you wanted to shave that first note a little bit. Could be something like that. Hope that makes sense. Let's get this raw set up properly. Now let's get another top loop, because I'm not going to be using that one. It's just needs a lot of kind of removing of elements. So let's just see if we can find a nice top loop to add to our groove here. So swing we played around with a bit before. We haven't randomized any FX racks. Unsync delays we might have a bit. Pitch bends we're working with a bit. LFO, beat, repeat, gated delay, yes. So we're kind of incorporating some ideas over here that I have on my little list of things to play around with the sound design side of things. Could be a nice change. So I've just legatoed the bass notes as well, so we could kind of have like a variation, or we could do what I was doing, which is morphing through. Now, if you're still there, capers, this bass line now with the legato notes, the kickstart plays a bigger role, right? Because if we take it all the way over here, there's a lot more overlap now, right? So now a sidechain would make a lot of sense. We take it off here, it's a lot more muddy, a lot more blurred together. Here we get separation. So yes, now with the legato bass notes, sidechain important, right? So that's where a little demonstration there. Okay, let's go top loop hunting. Just something simple to add a bit of groove. Even that, just straight out the gate there, it could work. Maybe something like that. Let's maybe make this a little bit more present. I know what we can do. Let's try, instead of just utility, let's have a bit of glue compressor here. Okay, are you planning to sidechain the bass line I've got there? For the pads, would you automate the volume? Potentially, yes. I think it'd be nice to get lots of movement on the pad. For now, it's just like a marker of that idea of a sound, far from sort of having any polish to it, let's say, but it's just an idea for now, for some bit more music. I'm not even sure on the sound yet, the actual sound that I've used, the preset. Just gonna add and also, if I was using this pad sounds, I definitely would have a bit of sidechain. So a great way to make this pad move. So let's take the sidechain off copy it from the bass track over to the pad track. Right, and let's get the kick, moving it. Processing on this shaker hi-hat thing here. Yeah, not that top loop now. So yeah, sidechaining the pad, really nice, got that kind of movement out of it, right? And we want our sounds moving around, and that's, you know, a real kind of pro tip. You know, we don't want static kind of music that kind of just sits there like, It doesn't feel like, a person played it. It doesn't feel like it's got sort of, vibe and nuances to it. It might be something AI might spit out if it didn't understand those things. Yes, I played these chords in. I haven't quantized them either, so they're kind of rough, raw, and ready. But that side chain's just already added that nice. We might need to actually just, yeah, just fix that a little bit so that the end and start of these notes do come together a little bit, because there's a little bit of a clicky sort of thing I think that happens here. Yeah, in there. So it's just maybe manually, or we could even try bringing them back slowly. Or maybe there's a rogue note somewhere, is there? Sometimes you get a little double up, maybe not. So what we might do is put those back, and then we'll just try legato. Ah, I know what it is. They're actually fine. It's actually the ghost note in the kick. It's this little thing that's here on the side chain. So as much as my side chain's a cool idea, it's kind of adding that little glitchy pop. So what we can do with the Kickstart, which is kind of cool actually, so you could still use, if you own the Kickstart, great little plugin, probably one of my most used plugins by a long, long way. And I think it used to cost around 15 euros, something like that. So it's well worth its weight in gold. So instead of side chaining it to an audio source on the pad, we're going to use it, but without side chain. So we're just going to use it more like a envelope follower. So we're still going to get the action of it, but it won't be sidechained to the kick. So we don't want audio, we want sync. We can get that movement with the Kickstart without having to sidechain it to any source. So let's have a look at what else we have in our Ableton folder of pads presets. And let's see what else we've got in here. So bookmarking the ones that I liked, they're all up in here. Okay, so these ones here that I've bookmarked. Like that. That took it somewhere new. Nice. Same chords, new preset. Again, we're all Ableton here apart from some samples. So we've got a sample kick. This is an Ableton preset bass. We've used a few kick starts, but otherwise, other than that, we're all Ableton friendly here. So all these things, again, the clap, okay, samples, but come on, guys and girls, you can get plenty of samples of closed hi-hats and kick drums and all that good stuff. Yes, I might have a few favorites, but yeah, samples are not hard to come by. This also just shows you that the presets work pretty good. You just spend a little bit of time listening through them and finding the ones that you like. So let's say we grab a third party for something different here. Let's maybe clear this, and let's have another third party thing here to come up with another sound. Let's maybe do a mini moog. And I can show you how we could tweak a preset perhaps to make it fit. Yeah, okay, I've got that sound. Okay, let's stop that. So let's kind of maybe come up with a little bit of a riff or something to go with what we've got. Let's try that. Let's see if we've got a take that we can use. Check what else we have. I think this is the take. There's a change. Okay, let's see what I did with some notes here. All right, let's move that over. I kind of like the change of the notes here, but I like the playing here, so we might fiddle with that. So I could quantize these, but I'm kind of like just manually moving them around a little bit here. from that take that I played in, right? So I could go with quantization, but I kind of feel like just to nudge them around a little bit manually. So what have we got here? We've got a preset. So let's maybe mess around with that, try out some of the other presets. A2K77, I'm very good. How are you doing? Hope you're doing good. All right, so what have we got so far? Okay, let's now play around with the preset a little bit. So we're going to go to the oscillators section and mess around with the tuning of those, the volume of them, the different waveforms. Something like that for a second. Well, hang on. So we're kind of taking a preset, classic thing, and we're flipping it. We're making it our own. So we started here with this classic MIDI, and we're just shaping it a little bit. So I'm going to quantize it a little bit because it's a little bit rough when we start to dig in a little bit here. So let's do a copy down here and then we can shoot that out. But it might also be the swing on there. So yeah, we've got the Logic swing being copied, as we know from early in the stream. A2K77 seems that I've missed quite a bit of the stream. Yeah, we're virtually almost about to call it a wrap, but obviously I'm sure you can watch it back on replay, no doubts. All right, so let's get in here and maybe just hit it with a little bit of quantize, just to give it some shape and see what that sounds like. I mean, it's obviously a lot tighter. Not really. Okay, too much. Right, we're going to look for a top loop to kind of wrap it up a little bit. Thank you, He. The stream is very helpful. I've subscribed. Thank you, Capers. I appreciate your subscription. I hope you can join me over in the community in the same wavelength. So we're about to wrap it up. We're just going to grab a little bit of a top loop just to kind of finish off the groove. Look for one earlier, but didn't find the one I was looking for. So we want a drum loop, top drum loop if we can. Pop that off. Got plenty of them. Just something to add. Maybe something like this, something to add a little bit more groove. Let's also take a look in the packs of Ableton. So we're looking for loop, drum loop, top drum loop. Nice. I'm just going to go straight to a place where I know sometimes it's quicker. I realise, Capers, I didn't fit in your cowbell either, but we can get a cowbell in there at some point. They may not be trendy, but cowbells are pretty cool. Okay, top loops, there we go. You've got a folder somewhere with a bunch of them in there. Let's try in here. We've got 128 folder, there's bound to be something in here, just to give it a little bit more groove. Change of plans again. Let's jump out of that one. Yeah, it's more sort of what I'm looking for. So let's do a little recap of what we've got here from scratch. Kind of a little tech house idea underway. What do we can clean up over here as well? Empty MIDI track over there. So let's do a little housekeeping here, a little recap of what we've got. We've got a kick, nice simple kick drum sample, nice punchy kick. Clap sample over here. Nothing fancy, except for a little bit of programming and making sure we chose a swing which kind of works, some layered hi-hats in a drum rack. And we've got a couple of loops that we've used, but we have sort of applied things like beat repeats and stuff to get little extra fills. There's quite a bit of sound design on this particular drum rack, which has some percussion hits in it that have then gone through a bunch of processing, all Ableton stuff, but basically put them through beat repeats, spectral resonator, moved some things around with some LFO. We've also got a gated delay there, hybrid reverb, and a glue compressor. So this track here sounds quite interesting. Doesn't really sound like percussion, right? And then after that, we've added a bass and tried out a couple of different patterns, all played in by hand, not too much quantization. And then we've sort of started with some chords as well and a pad sound. And then I've just tweaked a Arturia mini Moog preset to kind of put the final touches over here with a bit of a kind of riff. So we could call this the Moog riff. And all together, that's the drums. If we add in the percussion. Two bass patterns. With the pad. I like the legato bass. just finding that top loop that we've thrown in there at the very end. So, you know, what can we do from scratch? As we spoke about at the beginning of today's stream, you know, sometimes we walk away with a keeper when we open up Ableton and we work on a bit of music. And sometimes we end up, well, generally, I think it should always be a keeper. Don't delete anything, because even if you're not feeling this idea and you're not vibing on it and it didn't really work out the way you planned it to work out, and it's not one of those ideas that you feel straight away like that's a wow idea, you know, then there are still things in here we could use to kickstart another track. Or maybe we put this one down and park it, but we never delete stuff. And then we figure out another day, we listen back to it in audio and we go, oh, I know exactly what that track is and what I need to do or change or use, or, you know, all those good things. And as I said, it was very refreshing recently when I was on YouTube watching Chris Lake, who is an absolute master of his craft, you know, having one of those days where he wasn't really vibing and it wasn't really going, and he was in a live stream. And then eventually, you know, messing around with a bit of sound design, he was flicking through lots of presets and trying out stuff. He's a great keys player, so has no problem putting in chords, riffs, and all those kind of good things. But he was playing around with presets and effects and things like that. And then he came up with something that he locked onto that had a good feeling, and then off he goes. So this track here could be fun to put some vocals in now. It could be fun to even mic up and just go woo and do some fun kind of sounds with the voice, and then add those into here as part of the project. But I just wanted to point out that, as I said, it's always good to keep in mind part of the fun of doing music is the chase to make those wow tracks and the special moments, but it's enjoying the journey getting there. And all of what I've just done today, it's repetitions. It helps me grow. It helps me, you know, learn my plugins and effects, and maybe I discovered something in here today that I'll use in another track. So I hope that kind of makes sense. But I wanted to sort of, you know, talk about that a little bit, because like I said, I saw Chris Lake and that kind of inspired me to talk about that part of being a music producer. You know, don't give up. All of us, when we start, we have this maybe amazing music taste, but we can't, you know, produce ideas that sound like that. We'll give it time. And like I said, in all honesty, people are lying to you if they say to you they're a music producer and every time they make a track they spit out fire. You know, you need to feel good about the track. You need to feel like it's something you want to progress on with. And like I said, don't delete stuff off your hard drive. Don't, you know, throw things in the bin, because there's always stuff within ideas that you can use in another track or somewhere else. And even sometimes the track, you might not understand what it means today, but you might understand what it means tomorrow. And as I said, get it out of Ableton, bounce it into audio. The next time we listen to this, we should be listening to it in audio and judging it from there. You know, if we open this up to in a week's time and we listen to that back as an audio file, is it a track that we want to finish? Is it a track we know how to finish and work on? All right. So I hope that all helps and makes sense. But, you know, promising tech house idea in a couple of hours. Certainly something in there I think that could be drawn out, and some good little sound effectsy things along the way to get some of those sounds, which, as I said, I think is more important in this sort of music than going for another style of track where we were all about emotion and choosing chord progressions and scales and keys. I haven't really paid too much attention to that today. Excuse me, just made music. And that can be a lot of fun sometimes and very liberating. Different genres suit that sound design more angle, and it's something that sounds really vibey and cool rather than a beautiful chord progression. I'm surprised though, when I changed to this sound here on the chords, it did take it in a more prettier, beautiful direction than I was earlier, but it kind of doesn't hurt against the, you know, the more kind of darker bass. So So there ended up being an emotion in there, which I wasn't expecting, but sometimes things take a twist and a turn, and there's been some happy accidents in the stream, as always. So just checking back into the chat before I wrap it up. Capers, thank you, Heath. The stream is helpful. I've subscribed. Thanks for your subscription. Alex Moreno, great to see you here. Hello, just jumping in. Understand it's late down in Mexico there. Well, it's early morning, so understand you were late arriving here, but early morning your end. So I hope you've got a coffee sorted. And thanks very much for dropping a comment in my community section, which I spoke about in the middle of today's video at the hour mark. So if you missed that, go back and check that out. But essentially, YouTube gave me the thumbs up at the start of this week to have a communities section, and I straight away said yes, absolutely. It's mobile only at the moment, but you can now jump on my channel, go to communities, and you can now talk with each other, share pictures of your studio, let us know something cool you found out or learned or discovered, or plugins. You can share music you're working on and ask if others want to check it out and give their thoughts and feedback. I'm very excited about that. I haven't done a Discord channel. I've been waiting for things to evolve and move, and now we're under one house, one community, the same wavelength as I've called it. That's where we're all going to grow, learn, move, and join up together. And that was a dream of mine, to help and give value here and share what I've learned along my way. And now we can all kind of help each other out. And noobs are welcome. We all started somewhere. It needs to stay clean, healthy, respectful, and fun. Anybody who steps over those lines, well, they'll be sent out quick, smart, just like we would do in Discord. So let's keep it all nice and friendly and fun in there. Dr. Bones, good stuff. I'll try and check out the community on my phone, but I'm mostly on PC for interacting. You understood, my friend? I'm sure, as I said, at some point it will end up on the desktop and we'll all be there as well as the mobile, but just for now, it's mobile. So everybody, awesome having you all with me. Thanks so much, and till the next time. So what do we actually, let me just have a quick check of the dates and calendar and all that good stuff. So yeah, the next time I'll be online streaming, let's say, will be the first Sunday in July, all going to plan, just to give you a bit of a heads up notice there. So on that note, you know what to do. If you've enjoyed this stream, don't forget, push all those buttons that we ask you to push. You know what they are. Helps the channel an awful lot. And take care of yourself. Keep on creating, keep on having fun, keep on making music, and I'll catch you all very soon. Keep an eye out for that next live stream, as I said, first weekend in July, Sunday, and there'll be a video perhaps in between in the short form on my channel as well, all about Ableton Live and electronic music. Take care, everybody. Heath Holmes signing out. Ciao, everybody. See you later. Bye.